I'm Hazel, it's Saturday today, which makes it time to sit down and catch up on the WoW news of the week, what I've been up to, and answer some of your questions. First of all, Happy New Year, welcome to 2021. I have no idea what this year is going to look like, but I hope that it is good. This week there was once again no actual WoW news because of the holidays, so instead we're going to be covering some community news. And by that I mean the Mythic Dungeon tools thing. So for background, Mythic Dungeon tools, formerly known as Method Dungeon tools, is an add-on that lets you plan, view, share routes through a Mythic Dungeon to kind of plan your pulls and make sure that you get the correct amount of trash. There was some drama this week when the author of the add-on decided to put the NPC data behind a paywall, so the information about which NPCs there are, how many, where they are, how much percentage they offer, all of that add-on data was going to be paywalled, requiring a Twitch or Patreon support of the add-on author in order to unlock it. Overall, the community was not happy with that, and within the same week, the creator reverted this change, changed their mind. We are now back to where we started. You do not need to pay any money at all to get that data. During all of this, someone else also released a forked version of MDT that contained that data for free, so people were going to be able to use it either way. Because this was a thing that almost happened and then didn't, it's really not news, but there were a couple of different conversations that really got going in the wake of this drama that I want to touch on here. So in a lot of the threads discussing this, you ended up with two kind of camps of opinion. On one hand, you could say that gamers are being entitled to expect these tools for free, and they do still have the option to input the NPC data themselves. So technically, the add-on was still going to be functional without paying for it, as long as you did that extra legwork on your own. On the other side, you've got the opinion that the creator is being unwise to suddenly paywall data that was previously available for free, and some view that practice as either breaking terms of service or just being ban-worthy. So what I think is that, of course, on the internet, nobody is owed things for free, but it was an obviously bad business decision, and as a bad business decision, people were free to look for alternatives, such as the fork. They were free to stop using the add-on if they didn't like it, but based on the phrasing of the update tweet from the creator where they walked back this change, it seems like there were lines that were majorly crossed in terms of harassment, which is just really never justified, but especially not in the gaming space. This is insane. WoW and the tools that help us enjoy it are recreational, they're for fun, and add-on developers are working largely for free anyway, so it seems insane for people to abuse them whenever they make a decision about their add-on that is not well liked. The other conversation that this kind of kicked up was the terms of service argument, whether this was breaking TOS for them to try to paywall this. And it's worth noting that TOS has nothing to do with how free add-ons are. It's not something that you'll get banned in WoW for. So what we're talking about here instead is the Blizzard add-on policy. This is a piece of legal writing that was first released in 2009, has been updated over the years, and our most recently updated version is from 2018. This is the relevant part, and it says that all add-ons must be distributed free of charge. Developers may not create premium versions of add-ons with additional for-pay features, charge money to download an add-on, charge for services related to the add-on, or otherwise require some form of monetary compensation to download or access an add-on. So the gray area that MDT was attempting to occupy is whether data for an add-on, such as NPC locations, counts as a feature or a service related to the add-on. You can argue pretty easily that it does, and you can argue if you want that it doesn't, and the only person that gets to make that call is Blizzard, and then they get to make the call about whether or not they enforce it. For the record, there are many, many examples of add-ons that do have some of their data or features paywalled. Trade Skill Master, which is an add-on that I use, offers a premium service that offers like alerts and stuff. Zygor has been around forever, and that has like a monthly subscription for additional features. It's also not unheard of for individual players to sell their own weak auras or their own packages for add-ons like their UI kits, either directly for money or behind like Twitch and Patreon subs. That's something that happens fairly regularly, although because this is like add-on policy and not TOS, it's hard to say how that would be enforced because they're not even the author of the add-on that they're selling data for. There's also a segment in the add-on policy where Blizzard retains the right to disable any add-on at any time for any reason at all, and they don't have to say why. There's this like notion floating around that if they start more strongly enforcing their add-on policy, then they're also required to do it across the board, and if they took down MDT, then they would also go after Zygor and TSM and all of these other things. And while that is possible, it's certainly not required for them to take action in any individual given thing. This is not copyright law. They're allowed to pick and choose here. They get to do whatever they want. So that's kind of what happened. I have not been recently an MDT user myself. If I had been, I would probably have looked for alternatives had this change gone through, hypothetically. I probably would have tried to find something else, either the fork or just some other method of planning my routes as opposed to paying for it. Not because I'm against supporting data, but like feeling forced into supporting something is not usually received very well online. It doesn't feel good to feel like you're being pressured or tricked into supporting somebody's Twitch or Patreon. Had Blizzard issued a notice to MDT about the paywalling, that would not have massively surprised me, mostly just because of how much press this case got. But to wrap all this up, I'm going to say something really obvious, and that's direct harassment. And I don't mean like disagreeing with somebody on Twitter or in a YouTube comment, but like the level of attacks described in Noggy's update is horrifying and makes me worried about the future of talking about things online. Not only because you're afraid to say something that instigates this level of abuse, but on the other side of it, I don't like the sound of a world where I am afraid to even politely disagree on something reasonably, because that disagreement can get taken and blown up and carried away with online until stuff like this is being done on behalf of an opinion that any one person may have had that was reasonable to begin with, but just because of saying it, stuff happens. And I'm not saying that any one person started the MDT thing. It was a pretty widely unpopular move. But when everything, regardless of severity, like when medium mistakes and small mistakes that they're not human rights violations, they're not hurting anybody, it's a business decision about add-on data, when stuff like that can get blown up to this level of extreme, it makes it scary to talk about anything online, and it makes it even harder to hold people accountable for, like I said, medium and small things, because is it worth the risk that it just ruins somebody's life over like a medium thing, and it makes it, it's not, I don't like it and I wish it would stop, and that's obvious, but you know, what do you do? I was hesitant to even cover this topic in the first place because of how nasty it got online, even though this is a really mild subject. It's about add-on data. All right, well, that's that, and that was also the only really notable thing that happened over the holidays because people are rightfully relaxing at home. In my life this week, I finally had midnight drop for me after 473 kills. People were suggesting that maybe I had just like looted it and missed it and then like lost it in a bank somewhere, and I was starting to believe them after hundreds and hundreds of kills went by. I started to become convinced that I had accidentally like stashed it in a bank. I don't know how I would have done that, but it started to seem like the only reasonable explanation, because for a 1.4% drop chance mount, 473 kills is pretty impressive. If anything, you could say that I was really lucky for that particular scenario to have happened to me, technically. At the end of the day, though, I got my horse. It is beautiful. I love it. And the moral of the story is don't give up on your dreams unless you want to, because they're not particularly valuable to you anymore. That brings us to questions for this week, and Mr. Random wants to know, do you think that Covenant abilities will still be usable in the next expansion? Not a chance. 0% chance, as far as I'm concerned. That would be the most surprising thing for them to do, would be leave those on. Either A, they only work in Shadowlands, or B, they just disable them completely, but that is a classic example of expansion-specific borrowed power that, you know, imagine if you had to consider your Covenant balance choice. Next expansion, that's just madness, you know. Stuff that crazy, they tend to kind of keep locked within a contained length of time so that they don't have to live with their mistakes forever if they turn out to be actual mistakes. And Erica asks, I have finally amassed enough anima to unlock a second tier in my Sanctum reservoir, and I was wondering if you had a recommendation on what's best to upgrade first. So, the only, as far as I know, correct me in the comments if I'm wrong, but the only useful thing in terms of power from upgrades comes from the anima conductor. Eventually you will be able to spend grateful offerings for a lost memory to learn a legendary power that you do not yet have. So if there's a legendary power that you need that you're not getting, like it won't drop for you, or maybe it comes from content that you can't do, then you should focus on upgrading your anima conductor to improve the amount of grateful offerings you're getting so that you can get that legendary power quicker. If you have your legendary, or you just don't want it or don't need it or whatever, like if that does not apply to you, which is probably most people, outside of that, there's really no wrong answer. I personally upgraded my transport network to rank 2 first. I was deeply satisfied with that. It's very fun to just zoom places in your chosen zone. I am Kyrian, so the transport network is very good. It's just a bunch of portals. And I'm actually planning on saving up to upgrade my transport network again to rank 3 before I get any other thing to rank 2, because I've done the rest of them at a low level, and the mission table does not seem worth upgrading. It's just going to increase the rate at which your troops recover and stuff like that. Like, I'll upgrade it eventually, but I can do missions just fine right now. Like, I can lose missions just fine. Right now on my own, and then just it's whatever. The rest of them don't really seem that relevant or exciting to me right now, and I feel just more like I'm gonna really enjoy being able to zip around my zone and have a portal in my Covenant Hall back to Oribos, which is what you get at Transport Rank 3. And that has been my week. Thank you very much for watching. Happy New Year again. If you have any questions that you would like me to answer in a Saturday news, please leave them in the comments of the most recent one and include the word question to help me find it. Thank you all so much for watching, and have a wonderful, wonderful day.